Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to Fantasy Daily as my mic falls off of its stand. So everybody on YouTube, you just got a nice earful. Hopefully you don't got the headphones in because that probably sounded really loud. But anyway, welcome into the Friday edition of Fantasy Daily. Everybody, I am very excited. In an amazing game of football last night for the Carolina Panthers. But no, seriously, it was a good game of football. It was fun to watch. Davis Mills, personally for me, I think he did a lot better than what I expected him to. He didn't turn a ball over at all, which is really surprising to me. I thought that was going to be an absolute, domination by Carolina. I thought Carolina was going to beat him up and make him never want to play football again, but he did not terrible. You know what I mean? He didn't turn the ball over at all, so good for you, Davis Mills. Good for you, Carolina Panthers, starting off 3-0. All the Panthers fans out there, you deserve it. So, got a fun show for you. We're going to go through Thursday Night Football a little bit. I'm going to go through some news, and then I have my starts and my sits of the week. Now, my sits of the week, I might wait until tomorrow because I need more information to come out. There's a lot of implications on these injuries and these things that are happening today, and I really need the practice report. So I have my sits of the week, but I do think that it's going to change a lot before tomorrow, so I'm going to save probably that portion for tomorrow's show where I do all the game breakdowns. So I'll start tomorrow's show off by doing the game breakdowns, and I'll start the show off by doing my sits of the week, and then I'll get right into my game breakdowns for the full slate of all the games, except Monday night's game. Monday night's game I'll talk about a little bit as far as the players who you put in your flex and whatnot, but I cover Monday night games on Sunday after the game. So Sunday night, I am the only fantasy show out there that I know of that puts out a full episode as soon as the games are over on Sunday night. So if you guys are on the way to work Monday, you want something to digest, you haven't had enough of football, you got a podcast for Monday morning for you to go to work. Because I remember when I was on my way to work, that was my number one thing. I was like, man, ain't nobody releasing anything after the games on Sunday. I want to listen. I want more football Monday morning when I'm going in. It's all I'm thinking about. So Monday morning, you want that football, you got it. Fantasy Daily right here, either on the podcast or if you're joining me on YouTube. Once again, obviously, thanks for joining me, everybody. I appreciate it. A lot of work goes into this. I'm doing a lot of work, a lot of new spreadsheets that I'm making. I'm making my own custom. Everything I do here is custom for what I want to see. So all my spreadsheets I have made by hand keyed everything. So hopefully I can take all this data that I like to see, take all the data that you usually get, throw the stuff I don't want away. I take this data, I give it to you guys, we win trophies. So let's get right into it. It is episode 19 on September 24th, the Thursday Night Football recap, and obviously the big news here is the CMC hamstring injury. Now, we don't know the severity of this injury. Now, hamstring is never a good thing. It's never a good thing. It could be, 2 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, it lingers for the rest of the season, and this is a problem, which seems to be an issue with Christian McCaffrey. So, we said this a couple of years ago, and we've kind of said it throughout time, that when you take a running back and you run him into the ground like that, you run him into the ground. So we might be on the way out for CMC. Obviously, CMC is the biggest name in there. If he's on the field, you play him. But the days of 15-game, 16-game seasons for Christian McCaffrey is definitely gone. Because when you run as hard as he does, you get hurt as hard as he does. So obviously, don't trade CMC. Keep CMC. If you can go out and get him for a good price, do it. But I do believe that the days of 16-game seasons for CMC is long gone. So keep that in mind. J.C. Horn broke his foot last night. Ow. Jesus, could you imagine breaking your foot being a corner? Ugh, God. Anyway, 2 to 3 months for J.C. Horn. So that's bad news. That's bad news. That means he's coming back, end of December, playoff run time, stuff like that. So that's real bad news for J.C. Horn and the Panthers defense, which is still absolutely phenomenal. They played so well last night against that Houston team. I expected more turnovers, so I was high on Panthers defense. I picked them up basically everywhere on waivers going into the week, thinking I had a solid 20 points on that, and you did not. So you didn't. So CMC goes out, Chuba Hubbard comes in, and he's really good, man. He looked good. He looks explosive. We're going to have to see what happens with Christian McCaffrey, but obviously Chuba Hubbard basically becomes the #1 waiver ad already this week. So I know a lot of people are, on my TikTok last night, I had a lot of questions about Chuba Hubbard and if you trade for him or if you should trade for Christian McCaffrey. You don't know the extent of the injury yet, right? And regardless of what you trade to get these guys, you're not getting them this week. They already played. So if you're in the CMC boat, if you're in the Chuba Hubbard boat, relax. Let the games go through this weekend. See what happens. There might be more injuries, which makes other teams more needy, which makes your trade leverage a lot better. So pump the brakes. It's still Thursday. It's still Friday. The Thursday game just happened. You don't need to make a pivot today. You don't need to make a pivot right now. I understand the concern, but let the games play out. See what happens. See the news that we get with CMC, and then waiver day comes. You'll likely have to go get Chuba Hubbard because, like I said, I think that this is going to happen more and more with McCaffrey. And to me, I also thought that this was one of those things where Carolina was like, we're playing Houston. We're going to beat Houston. I'm not risking CMC. You know what I mean? So obviously they took care of Houston soundly. So I don't expect that this was a CMC injury. I do expect him to miss more time as time goes on, though. So relax, see what happens. I know it hurts. If you have CMC, you have a huge leverage against everybody else in the league anyway, so relax. If you have CMC and Chuba, you have no concern at all. Just pump the brakes, let him play. DJ Moore, he goes out just to scare us. You see that little sideline video of him sitting on the bench, and he looks like he's writhing in pain, and I was very worried. I don't have DJ Moore stock anywhere, but I like DJ Moore, so seeing him got hurt kind of hurt me as well. That made me sad, but it's one of those things where if he's on the field still and not in the blue tent, okay, this looks good. This looks good. He's stretched. Once he's stretched out, he gets everything worked out. He'll be out there hopefully. So he gives us a scare, but then he comes back to have a great fantasy day. He should be okay, but he's probably sore today as well. I don't know if you guys saw that pass where Daniel Jones. See, I got Daniel Jones all on my brain, man. It's going to happen. I'm speaking it into existence. Anyway, Sam Darnold missed DJ Moore on that ball. He had his fingertips out. It just missed him, and DJ Moore took a hard spill on his hip on that. So he's going to be feeling that one today. That one hurt me through the TV screen. So that's cool for DJ Moore. I love it. Terrence Marshall got a couple catches, I think. Whatever. Don't really care. This is the bad part. This is the part that people aren't going to like me for, but you should probably be on my side, I think. Let me take a sip of my coffee before I say it. Let me build suspense. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm done with Robby Anderson. And I know it hurts to say because we all love Robby. And how can Robby and Sam Darnold not be a connection? But if I can't trust you against Houston, when can I trust you? You know what I mean? So I'm out on Robby Anderson completely. I'm willing to drop him for somebody else. If he played on your bench this week and you didn't start him, you can still drop him for somebody on Sunday, and I don't care. I'm sure that you can find somebody else out there along the waiver wires who you like better than Robby Anderson. And if you're playing the game, play the game. Pick up somebody you like. Pick up somebody you think that's has potential. Whatever you like. So I don't think I'm into Robby Anderson anymore for the rest of the season. I'm willing to, if I'm in a deeper league, a 12-man league, okay, I'll keep him on my roster. But if I'm staring at two positions and I like what I see on the waiver wire and I have to drop somebody, it's going to be Robby Anderson for me. I'm out on Robby. If I can't trust you versus Houston, when can I trust you? That's a big, big problem for me. So keep that in mind. Davis Mills got beat up, but he didn't turn over the ball, so that was nice to see. When you're playing Carolina and you don't turn over the ball, it's kind of promising. Brandon Cooks, once again, gets absolutely peppered with targets, and he's going to keep getting that. So he's in the wide receiver 1 consideration, basically on a weekly basis, depending on the corner who he's taking on. But Brandon Cooks is just going to get 10, 11 targets per game. And if he catches 8 targets, that's 8 points. Boom, done. Cool. That's solid. That's a flex wide receiver 3 that I'm okay with. So Brandon Cooks is going to be borderline 1, borderline 2 for the rest of the season if he keeps getting these targets, and I think he will, because there's really not much else on that team. Anthony Miller showed up, and I actually kind of forgot about Anthony Miller. If you guys remember Anthony Miller from Chicago, he was okay. He's in Houston now, but Houston was that team that picked up 1 million running backs and wide receivers in the offseason, so I don't even know who it was going to be. Last night I played Chris Connolly in like 7 different FanDuels, Guess who lost all those FanDuels? Anyway, so Anthony Miller had the tight end, had the touchdown. He's going to be with Amendola. When Amendola comes back, they're going to flex in and out. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And guess what? I don't care. I don't want any part of that. I don't want those guys on my roster because as soon as you put them in, they're going to bust. So I don't really care for it. I'll let somebody else pick him up. You guys enjoy the touchdown if he gets it, but I'm out on that one. Yeah, so they're both fades on me. About to go into some news, and then we'll go into the starts of the week. But first of all, let me mention again, the full game breakdowns are going to be on tomorrow's show. So I'll go through all the 1 p.m., 4 p.m., and the Sunday night football games. Monday Night Football I will be talking about on that Sunday night show. So the Sunday night show after everything is all said and done, during the days, my immediate digestion. And now during the games at 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, I got my laptop in front of me. I'm keeping track of everything. I'm trying to watch, take notes, see what I see. And, that Sunday night give you my immediate implications, my immediate takeaways from that day. And, see how everything settles in before, Monday comes. You got that podcast, everything feels good. You had a good weekend, you had a bad weekend. Where do we go from it? I got you. Monday morning, man. Turn me on, turn me up. Hear my voice in the morning. You know it's going to be a good day because we talking about football. Now, my voice ain't appealing, but football's appealing. So let's do that. All right, so anyway, let's get into the news. I got only really a couple pieces of news tidbits that I really want to kind of, push down and, massage into your brain, because there's one thing out there that people are really high on right now, and I'm gonna say you gotta pump the brakes on this. So that's my big thing on the show right now is pump the brakes. It's week 3, we freaking out. We want immediate validation. Immediate validation is a huge thing in fantasy football, but it also leads to panic. And when you panic, you make mistakes. When you make mistakes, you lose. When you lose, you don't get any trophies. There's no trophies in losing. Anyway, so we're going to talk about San Francisco and how they signed 1 million running backs. And I just don't know what to do with this. So Elijah Mitchell, they're saying, is very questionable for this weekend. And now everybody's on the Trey Sermon train. Everybody in the offseason who was saying they were all about Trey Sermon. And don't get me wrong, you guys got me. I was like, I don't know, man. San Francisco's running backs have always kind of been like that, so I don't know. And then over time, people kept talking it in my brain. I watched some Trey Sermon hype, and I was like, oh, okay, he's good. I like it. So even I was in on the Trey Sermon hype. I drafted him in my home league, my trophy league, and with like my last pick or something like that. And he didn't even make it 4 days on my roster before I was like, I want somebody else for this, because I'm not waiting around to see what happens with the San Francisco backfield. You can't, even 2 years ago, when I think it was Tevin Coleman who was absolutely destroying, I can't remember the other name. It was Jerick McKinnon and someone else over there. But you couldn't even trust Tevin Coleman because the other guy was stealing from him. He was vulturing him. So this is Kyle Shanahan. He's good at running backs, and he likes to show off that he's good at running backs. So I feel like Elijah Mitchell being very questionable. Those of you who paid for Trey Sermon, this is your chance. Those of you who are high on Trey Sermon, this is your chance. He's probably going to get the start. He's probably going to share some time with this 1 million running backs in the backfield here. But this is your chance. Here it comes. And he's playing against Green Bay, how's Green Bay been against the defense? We'll see. But basically what I'm saying is that this is your chance. And if he doesn't show up this week, then what are we supposed to do? Because Jeff Wilson's coming back week 7. And they love Jeff Wilson. They absolutely adore Jeff Wilson. So if that's the case, and we're putting all this stock into Trey Sermon, it needs to be this week that he's the lead back and he absolutely feasts. So, me personally, I'm lower on Trey Sermon than a lot of other people are. I understand the appeal. I understand the idea of, yes, Green Bay's allowing a lot of rushing yards. So if Trey Sermon doesn't make it happen in this game, if they make him the starter and Trey Sermon's, it doesn't happen, I'm out. I'm out on San Francisco running backs because you're going to play the roulette every single week. Is it Elijah Mitchell? Is it Trey Sermon? Is it Jeff Wilson? Blah, 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 blah. So, to me personally, let me dial back because I get worked up over these running back committees. I don't like it. I don't want it on my team. So, let me dial back. If you're a Trey Sermon manager, if you're someone who's high on Trey Sermon and you want it to happen, keep him, play him this week. He should have a good game, right? If he doesn't, I think that's when you immediately turn your view to, okay, it's probably not going to happen. And as soon as Jeff Wilson comes back, when Elijah Mitchell's healthy, Jermichael Hasty's healthy, and you have 4 people who you don't know, 4 running back committee is supposed to be 2. You have 2 committees. You have 2 different duos. So I don't want to put my stock into that. Me personally, if I have Trey Sermon anywhere and he goes off this week, I'm trading him right after. So keep that in mind. That's my opinion of the whole Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, JaMychal Hasty. I think they got Chris Thompson, the running back from Washington as well. So they got a million people over there, and I'm not willing to take that chance. I'm not willing to buy that lottery ticket. So that's that. So another piece of news, Antonio Brown is expected to miss this game, which means fire up your Mike Evans, fire up your Chris Godwins, obviously. This might give Scotty Miller a chance if you're, hurting, blah, blah, blah. But my biggest takeaway from Antonio Brown expected to miss is that you can keep firing up Gronk. So, Gronk manager, I know a lot of people are like, hey, let me cash in now. I see a lot of people on TikTok, a lot of TikTok users saying, oh, Gronk can't keep this up. He's too old, blah, 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 this and that. It's not about Gronk when you play in Tampa Bay. It's about Tom Brady. That's why Antonio Brown's so valuable. That's why Gronk is so valuable. Because if Tom Brady wants to give Gronk the ball in the end zone, the ball is going to Gronk in the end zone. And it was decided 3rd and 12 when we were on the 45. When I get over there, this ball is going into his hands in the end zone, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. So I understand. I am also a Gronk, halfway. I'm more of a Gronk truther, but I also have been the guy in the past where I'm like, he can't keep this up. You don't just come back to football. And that's why he sucked last year. But now he's got a year in football. He feels good. They're both saying that Brady, everybody on Tampa Bay is saying that Gronk feels like vintage Gronk again. And I'm willing to take that chance. Because if Gronk is vintage Gronk, he's next to Kelsey and Waller for the rest of the year. Easy. And if you're saving him for touchdowns like Brady is, then he's easily one of the most valuable players in fantasy because he's on the bottom tier. You know what I mean? If you put him in flex rankings, he falls to 30 or 40. Kelsey and Waller don't fall to 30 or 40. And he's up there with them. So Gronk for me, I think it's a huge bump with Antonio Brown missing time. And I also wanted to speak on the point that if you are one of those people who are like, I don't know if Gronk can keep this up, then just wait until it stops. Just wait until it stops. There's going to be a week where Gronk comes out and he has 2 catches for 40 yards and he puts up 6 points in your team and you're sad. But you probably played against Dallas Goedert or Jared Cook or somebody else, Noah Fant, who put up 12. So I'm still taking the upside. You know what I mean? And there's not many tight ends out there. And if they say Gronk is vintage Gronk, if Brady wants to get him the ball, I'm putting my eggs in that basket. How can you not? And I'm willing to do it until further notice for Gronk. So Antonio Brown expected to miss the game. I'm high on Gronk in that game. So take a look at that. I can't remember. Tampa Bay's playing. I think they just played the Rams. I always do this. Tampa Bay. Oh, they are playing the Rams. So Tampa Bay is playing the Rams. So don't love the running backs. Fire up your Gronk. Fire up your Mike Williams. Fire up your Chris Godwin. I'm trying to do a show, and I just remembered I have Mike Williams in the bench in one league. Ooh. Okay, we'll do that later. Anyway, going into my starts of the week, everybody. And now I wanted to save a good portion of this show to go over some of these names, because some of the names are obvious. Some of the names are people that I think, players that I think people are low on. So I wanted to throw them in here to kind of ease the tension on that and say this is somebody that I have confidence in starting, and that, kind of help your anxiety a little bit with saying, okay, I'll start them. So starts of the week, my quarterback's not going to be a secret. It's not going to be a secret because everybody knows the love that I have for this guy and how much I think that he can actually put up a, top 10 game this week. And yes, I said top 10. I have him in my top 10 this week because of the matchup. And everybody, that's Daniel Jones. You're going to hear me talk about Daniel Jones until it doesn't happen, because not enough people are buying in. And every time I say something about Daniel Jones, people kind of just like, for fantasy points? We got fantasy points. We need them. So Daniel Jones is my starter. He's playing Atlanta. I got him statted out for 300 passing yards, 40 rushing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. I have Daniel Jones balling all over Atlanta. And I think it's going to happen because Atlanta sucks on defense. So I think that's going to happen for Daniel Jones. Obviously, I don't have to go into it much more. I'm a Daniel Jones stan right now. If you check out my TikTok or any of my other shows, I'm all about that. So He's definitely my quarterback starter for this week. Moving on over to the wide receiver position, and I got Corey Davis. Now, the reason I'm putting Corey Davis in here is because I was a little bit lower on Corey Davis than anybody else was going into the season. There was a lot of people saying that Corey Davis was going to be a top 10 wide receiver, top 15. I never saw it. There was a couple people out there saying that he's going to be this year's Calvin Ridley. I got the appeal. The stats were there. But to me, it just wasn't the team structure. Calvin Ridley had Matt Ryan. You know what I mean? Like, certain players have certain things that they get a huge bump from. So I see the targets, but Corey Davis feels more of a Brandon Cooks to me, where I need those 8 catches to feel good. And if I don't get those 8 catches, then I'm very, nervous. So I put Corey Davis in here because I've been a little bit critical on him, but I do think that this is a game that you can start him where he's going to be absolutely vital. He's going to be a necessity. He's going to get some dump offs, the 5 yards. I didn't mean to say dump offs. I meant to say like the design plays. He's going to get the design plays where Zach Wilson's hiking the ball and throwing it to him and seeing what he can do. Those little wide receiver screens, stuff like that. So I think he's going to be more involved in that aspect, and the reason I put him in here is because I would have confidence starting him this week, despite me kind of pushing him down and kind of relegating him to the bottom end. So Corey Davis, I like him this week. I will fire him up. My next one is Tyler Boyd. Now, this is my lower end guy that I didn't really want to put in here, but he's another person that I think a lot of people are kind of getting off of. They think it's the Jamar Chase, T. Higgins show, which I agree. But at the same time, Tyler Boyd is still a really great wide receiver. He's getting some targets, and if something were to happen to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, God forbid, knock on wood, all that good stuff, Tyler Boyd still flexes into the wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 role, kind of around like where Robert Woods is. But on any given week, Tyler Boyd could show up. And I do think that this is a good week for Tyler Boyd to show up. I don't remember where I have him statted out yet at, but he is playing against, hold on, I have him at the wrong one, sorry. He's playing against Pittsburgh, which is tough, but that's right. If he has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins being the ones, he's playing in the slot, he's playing on the outside, he's kind of the forgotten man. That's why I have him in here, that this week I do kind of trust him. I know he's more of in like that Tim Patrick, Juju, Henry Ruggs area, but that's why I put him in here, because I think he has the potential to hit wide receiver 2, high wide receiver 2 numbers this week. So I put him in there because as much as I've relegated him and kind of said I'm out on Tyler Boyd, I think he's worth a shot this week. Now, my third wide receiver, the one that I saved for last on purpose, if you follow me on TikTok, you already heard me talk about him this morning, but that's Sterling Shepard. And the reason I'm putting Sterling Shepard on here is because he is the forgotten man in fantasy football right now. So I talked about it on my TikTok this morning. Sterling Shepard currently within 2 weeks has 19 targets, 16 receptions, 207 yards, and a touchdown. That's an amazing stat line for a New York Giant. And he has Kenny Golladay on the team. And he has Darius Slayton on the team. So for you to get that much work with those 2 wide receivers who are really good, and obviously Saquon Barkley, we haven't seen him hit full stride yet. But there's a reality where Saquon Barkley does not hit full stride this season. There's a reality where that happens. We need to entertain that reality, especially when it comes to somebody who's putting up wide receiver 1 numbers in the last 2 weeks with my sleeper of the year, Daniel Jones. So for me, he's the forgotten man. He's super cheap to trade for. He's on some waiver wires. Somebody dropped him this week for Javonte Williams in one of my leagues, which I get. Javonte Williams shouldn't have been dropped. He shouldn't have been on waiver wires. Somebody, unexcusably dropped him. But watching Sterling Shepard fall really shows that's where he is in some people's minds, where it's like, oh, it's the Giant. No, Sterling Shepard is putting up good points, and he's looking like the wide receiver 1. So with that being said, let's get into Kenny Golladay. Now, Kenny Golladay was the big offseason acquisition, where's he going to go? As soon as he hit, I was all about Daniel Jones, and that was my big thing. Oh my God, he got Kenny Golladay. He just got his Odell Beckham, except more consistent and, a freak. And then it didn't pan out because Daniel Jones already has a rapport with Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard. And that, we've seen that 100 times where wide receivers have a rapport with their quarterback, so they stay doing that. They stay, passing those players because that's what they're used to. That's where their chemistry is. Now Kenny Golladay has a hip injury. So this is reminiscent of his time in Detroit. So now if we have this hip injury, Sterling Shepard going off, this is a recipe for success for Sterling Shepard. You can even go get Darius Slayton. I like Darius Slayton in this, but I also think that Sterling Shepard is not talked about enough. He's ignored a little bit, and I really, really want to go out and get Sterling Shepard, whether it be off the waiver wire or if I can trade low for him. I absolutely want Sterling Shepard on my team because I think he's solid despite the name not really popping off the paper for you. So Sterling Shepard, Daniel Jones, I got you back this year. Until further notice. You're still on watch. I'm still skeptical. Moving over to running back. My first running back that I want to talk about is Chase Edmonds. Now, this is a guy that I played last week. I had high hopes for Chase Edmonds going into last week. He did not great, but this week he also gets Jacksonville. And the reason that I like him better this week than I did last week, the reason I'm willing to roll with him again, is because I think this might be a game where Jacksonville really struggles to put up points against Arizona. So at the end of the game, your DeAndre Hopkins, those guys, they might not be getting worked out the way that you want them to. So all depending on how the game script turns out, but I am predicting that Chase Edmonds probably gets fed quite a bit of carries at the end of the game. You might even see James Conner a little bit. Because I expect Arizona to put this game away pretty easily. So there's that. With Chase Edmonds, I definitely like him this week. And then we got Damian Harris as my number 2 start of the week. And now I put Damian Harris in here this year because week 1 he had 100 yards. Week 2 he had the carries. Week 3 now he's playing New Orleans. And New Orleans is not great. Especially I think New Orleans is kind of like bumped up a little bit in their stats against the run because they played Green Bay week 1 and Green Bay only allowed 43 yards. So I think New Orleans is a lot worse against the run than what they look like on paper. So I really do want to start Damian Harris in this one. I think he gets fed a ton. You can also flex in James White. But for the Damian Harris people, I know he's kind of a flex option for a lot, and they're wondering, should I start this guy or start Damian Harris? I do like Damian Harris this week. Obviously, you're always playing that. If you watch my trade show on Wednesday with Manny, we talked about Damian Harris, and I said that I expect him to have a big week this week, and that if he does have this big week this week, I'm going to immediately trade him because you've always been a victim of New England running backs, and I don't want to do it again. I don't want. Moving on to my tight end. So my tight end start of the week, that would be Dallas Goedert. Now, the Dallas Goedert one that I'm popping into here again, the reason that I'm putting him in here is because he's a lot of names that I've seen in trades. A lot of people are wondering, should I get rid of Dallas Goedert? Should I trade him for this? Should I pick up this guy instead? Blah, 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 blah. I would roll with Dallas Goedert. I would keep rolling with him because whatever you're looking at besides him is like a Tyler Higbee, Jared Cook, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Gerald Everett. If you can get a Robert Tonyan, a Logan Thomas, and Noah Fant instead of Dallas Goedert, yeah, I guess I'll do that. But I don't know. To me, it's more like Robert Tonyan, Dallas Goedert, Noah Fant, Logan Thomas in that order. And you can flip Logan Thomas and Noah Fant if you want. But I'm a big fan of Dallas Goedert. And the tight end class is so thin that you might look at it and go, oh, he's not doing enough. But compared to everybody else, nobody else in the tight end class is really popping like that. So, I mean, if you can take Goddard and package him with somebody else and get Gronk and another wide receiver or something like that, okay, I'll do that. But I'm still with Dallas Goedert, so I made him as my start of the week because I feel like he's one of those people that's kind of the forgotten man. And as much as we don't, look at him as a big, starter, I think he is. I think he's a good starter, and I like him. So keep rolling with him. Got 1 minute to go, so let's bang out these last people. My defense, I got Raiders. They're playing Miami. Tua is out. That's a no-brainer. My flex, I got Courtland Sutton. I like Courtland Sutton until Jerry Jeudy gets back. I think he's going to keep balling out. So if I were you guys and you got Courtland Sutton, keep rolling him out in your flex. I'm a big fan of him this weekend. They got a good matchup. Let me check real quick. I can't remember who they play. Who is Denver playing? Let me type in Denver here. Denver. Nope, my internet is not working right now. Can't remember who Denver's playing. Oh, they're playing the Jets. Yeah. Roll out Courtland Sutton, everybody. That is it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Once again, I am Nathan from Fantasy Daily. Check me out on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. See you later, everybody. Thank you for joining me.